Today's video is sponsored by Dollar Shave Club. Alright, let's cut right to the chase. We all know why we're here this week. You guys voted for Claire's instant ramen on last week's poll. I've been waiting for some of the ingredients to get here and they have finally arrived. And after watching this video through a couple times, I can confidently say that there is no way anybody else has tried to remake this recipe for two main reasons. Number one is the amount of kitchen utensils and appliances you need. You need an oven and a blender, a spice grinder, a stand mixer with pasta rollers and cutters, a vacuum sealer, dehydrator, an air fryer, and I'm gonna throw in a blowtorch at the end, because why not? And secondly is the simple fact that there is no measurements on any of these ingredients. When you're making the stock, there's no unit of measurement. When you're making your finalized seasoning packets, she just lists the ingredients without any exact measurements. In turn, a lot of what you're about to see me do is just gonna be a guess job. Wow, I really set this one up to have all your hopes very high. Let's get right into this one. Now, as you can probably guess, this recipe will be broken down into two main components: our dried noodles and our seasoning packet. But before I can start on either one of those, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends over at Dollar Shave Club. Now, you guys have heard me talk about how much I love Dollar Shave Club in the past. Today, I am super excited to be partnering with them once again. And if you are unfamiliar, Dollar Shave Club has you covered for all your grooming needs. From shower and oral care to deodorants, and most importantly, shaving, they have some of my favorite products I've used to get ready in the mornings. Today, Dollar Shave Club sent me their Ultimate Shave Starter Set. That includes some Dr. Carver's Prep Scrub and Shave Butter, as well as their super comfortable to use executive handle and blades, as well as my favorite product, the Post Shave Dew. My skin can kind of get dry after I shave, and this provides hydration and relief right on contact. So do yourself a favor and visit dollarshaveclub.com/David Seymour. It's in the top line of the description. Get the Ultimate Shave Starter Set for just $5, and then round out your grooming routine and check out some of their other high quality products. Getting back to our ramen though, I grabbed some chicken wings and onion powder, garlic powder and bread flour, celery salt, ground turmeric, kosher salt, and ground white pepper, MSG, crushed red pepper flakes, soy sauce, and sherry cooking wine, fresh thyme and water, baking soda, whole black peppercorns, some dried bay leaves and shiitake mushrooms, fresh ginger and onion, fresh parsley, a leek, some celery, some garlic, some carrots, and some fresh turmeric root. That was a mouthful, but you cannot forget the two ingredients that held this video up in the first place: our white miso paste and my $22 chicken fat. I don't know if this was so expensive because of the time that we're in, or just normally is. Let me know in the comments. But this was definitely pricey. At least we are going to be using it in two different ways. One, to brown our chicken wings, and then later to coat our noodles. And as I mentioned earlier, for 90% of this recipe, I'm gonna be on my own. We're already getting into that a little bit between my root vegetables, my herbs, basically everything that is going to be the base of our chicken broth. I did go back quite a few times to watch really carefully, take some notes of how much she seems to use, but some of the parts just go so fast, it's really impossible to know. Regardless of the ratios, this is going to taste amazing, I'm sure of it. So once my chicken was nice and brown with some fond on the bottom of the pan, I deglazed with the sherry, covered that with some cold water, and then threw everything and the kitchen sink into this pot. I'm actually really excited for this because it's been a crazy long time since I've made a homemade stock or broth. Usually I just use store-bought stuff, but this usually always comes out much better. You've got to let this simmer over low heat for at least 90 minutes to 2 hours, strain everything out, reduce the rest of the liquid until there's only a half cup remaining, and then blend some of the solids that you strained out earlier. I hate to keep going back to this point, but again, I have no clue what I'm supposed to be blending. I don't think I'm supposed to be blending up the chicken and the root vegetables because they're super fibrous and might bind my blender. So I really only used the carrots and celery, the mushrooms, and the onions. I'm kind of scared of using the leeks or the ginger. That stuff did seem to blend pretty nicely. I'm sure once we add some liquid, it'll be even smoother. But this process took me between 8 and 10 hours to get it reduced to a half cup. It smells incredible, but it has the consistency of barbecue sauce or something similar. So I blended that up with my vegetable solids, and this was looking pretty decent. If you watched the original video, you would know I'm not even halfway there to getting that seasoning mix, because I have to spread my mixture over my parchment-lined dehydrator trays, and then dehydrate this at 120 degrees Fahrenheit for 16 hours or until it is completely dry and brittle. As I was going through this whole recipe, my parents kept asking me, why are you doing all this work to then reconstitute the powder in water? And my only response was really, welcome to the insanity that is this YouTube channel. But alas, once my mixture was super dry many hours later, I cracked it up into my blender. This one's really meant for smoothies and other drinks, but the motor is so strong it can powderize things very easily. And once that was blended, I added all my other seasonings and spices, once again without an inkling of an idea of how much to add of each one. I think I ended up doing just 1/4 teaspoon part of each one of these. I remember Chris telling Claire not to add too much, so I figured this would be a nice subtle amount. The very last step is to portion out our seasoning into little packets, and I wish I was smart enough to come up with this on my own, but if you are familiar with the YouTube channel King of Random, he did this many years ago and it's always been in the back of my mind. You basically take a metal coat hanger, superheat it with a blowtorch of some kind, and then subdivide Ziploc bags to whatever size you need. I was thinking about leaving the little Ziploc portion of it on, but it's kind of pointless since they're only going to get one use anyway. But they ended up looking pretty cool and kind of similar to what Claire had with the vacuum sealer. And now that we are about 30 hours into this video, we can start on our ramen noodles. The first thing you gotta do is bake your baking soda at a very low temperature for about an hour. I am not gonna get all scientific on you. Go over to Claire's video if you wanna know why you're supposed to do this. All you have to know is that it helps to make the noodles springier and stretchy at the end. So I mixed that with some kosher salt in some warm water, and then eventually threw that in 500 grams of my bread flour. Honestly, thank the high heavens that there was measurements given for this, because if there wasn't, I think I'd be very lost. Once I had my dough kneaded a bit and wrapped in plastic wrap, I let it rest at room temperature for an hour before cutting out a portion and rolling it through my stand mixer pasta attachment. I would imagine you could probably do this by hand, just like you're making spaghetti. Do I want to make pasta by hand at this point? Absolutely not. You just want to get your noodles as thin as possible. Use your spaghetti attachment or whatever you have that's the thinnest. Use a little extra flour so nothing sticks. And mine ended up looking very good. Now let me just warn you, the next few steps go by pretty quickly, so try to stick with me. One portion at a time, you have to dunk your pasta down into some salted boiling water for a minute or less. You're just trying to parboil these. Then you have to dip them immediately in your ice bath to stop the cooking for another minute. You have to toss them in about a half teaspoon of chicken fat so they don't stick together, and then throw them in the air fryer for 20 minutes at 180 degrees Fahrenheit. I just have to mention, this is not my air fryer. Do not expect to see it a bunch of times in the future. This is my friend Lindsay and Phyllis's, so thank you for letting me borrow it. Now the recipe calls for 20 minutes in here. I thought that was way too short. The middle of this was super wet still. So I gave it another 15 minutes and I think this could work. The very last thing I did to finish off my packet was the same coat hanger and blowtorch trick as I did with the seasoning. I threw in a little packet into each portion, and now that we've spent 3 days making these individual portions, I gotta rip everything open and boil it all off again. Now before any of you get in a tizzy and run down to the comments, I'm just making jokes. I know the goal of this was to make individually portioned instant ramen that you can throw in the fridge and keep for days or weeks and make whenever you're hungry. And as far as that's concerned, I think we hit the nail on the head. This smells so good. If you've ever been at Grand Central in Manhattan and walk past one of those like soup stalls or soup restaurants, that's kind of what it reminds me of. They just have chicken stock simmering away for like 12 hours a day. Kind of the same. Oh, that was very hot. Ow. It's very good though. Now, as you saw, there are plenty of opportunities to where this differed a little bit from Claire's recipe. But this looks really similar to one of those instant brick packets. Hers looked a little bit more orange or like deep yellow. I'm kind of shocked by how well these noodles reconstituted in this broth. They're not soggy at all. They're like quite springy and chewy. The color of this broth is kind of deceiving. It's so dark, it would look to be like super packed with flavor, and it's very light. Like, it's not super salty at all. You do get the chicken flavor. I use a little bit less than a tablespoon for each one of those packets, so I would say use a little bit more than a tablespoon for 2 cups of water. Overall delicious. I'm definitely gonna finish this bowl. Was it worth the 3 days? Debatable, but I'm just happy that it's over. I hope you guys enjoyed this marathon of a video. If you did, leave me a big like. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you don't already. Huge shout out to Dollar Shave Club for sponsoring this one. Thank you guys for coming back and supporting the channel. Other than that, have a fantastic weekend. I will see you right back here next time. Peace.
With the M without the AD. Flipping burgers and my money super lazy. Try and make a meal tonight, they ain't paying me. Try and supersize my life with my A-team. Yeah, our style wasn't wavy, but we had a vision.